The illusion of perfection. The light in their bedroom fell perfectly across James's face as he slept. Olivia Bennet reached for her camera on the nightstand, capturing the gentle curves of her husband's profile against the white sheets. 7 years of marriage, and she still found him beautiful. "Are you taking pictures of me sleeping again?" James mumbled, eyes still closed. "The light was too perfect," Olivia said, setting her camera down. "Besides, you're the only man who looks this good with bedhead." James Bennet opened one eye and smiled. "I have a meeting at 8. Rain check on breakfast?" It was their routine lately. Rain checks and postponed dinners. Olivia nodded and watched as he disappeared into their ensuite bathroom. At 33, she had built a respectable career as a botanical photographer, documenting the subtle beauty of plants for scientific journals and nature magazines. James, at 36, had recently made partner at Caldwell & Finch, one of Seattle's most prestigious law firms. They had met at a charity auction where one of Olivia's photographs, a close-up of a frost-covered leaf, had caught James's attention. "It's extraordinary how you captured something so easily overlooked," he had said. Those words had won her heart. Now, as she made coffee in their sleek kitchen, she wondered when they had stopped noticing the small things about each other. That evening, Olivia sat alone at dinner again, scrolling through her upcoming assignments. A text from James lit up her phone. "Working late. Don't wait up." She sighed, adding his message to the growing collection. She didn't reply. 3 weeks later, Olivia adjusted her emerald dress in the mirror. The annual Legal Excellence Awards was the highlight of James's professional calendar, and despite their growing distance, she wouldn't miss his moment. He had been nominated for a prestigious award recognizing his work on environmental compliance cases. The hotel ballroom sparkled with champagne flutes and designer gowns. Olivia entered alone. James had texted that he would meet her there, another first in their relationship. She scanned the crowd, nodding at familiar faces from previous events. Then she saw him. James stood near the stage, champagne in hand, his head tilted toward a woman in a red dress. "Vanessa Carter, his firm's new marketing director." The woman laughed at something he said, placing her hand on his arm with familiar ease. Olivia might have dismissed it as professional friendliness, except for one detail. James was looking at Vanessa the way he used to look at her, with complete fascination. She watched, frozen in place, as James's hand slipped around Vanessa's waist. The gesture was intimate, possessive, not the touch of a colleague. Several people nearby noticed Olivia standing there. A few exchanged glances, discomfort evident in their expressions. They knew, perhaps everyone knew. When James finally spotted her, his hand dropped from Vanessa's waist, but the damage was done. The illusion of their perfect marriage shattered in full view of Seattle's legal elite. Olivia didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she walked toward them with practiced poise, her camera bag, her constant companion, slung over her shoulder. "Olivia," James said, his voice unnaturally high. "You made it." "I wouldn't miss it," she replied, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Hello, Vanessa." The evening blurred after that. Olivia sat through the awards, applauded when James won, and posed for photos. But something inside her had shifted fundamentally. She saw their marriage now with a photographer's clarity, not as she wished it to be, but as it truly was. And for the first time in years, she was ready to change the frame. Silent dignity, Olivia stood in her dark room, watching an image emerge in the developer tray. Unlike her digital work for clients, she still processed personal photographs the old way, chemicals and patience. The print slowly revealed James and Vanessa at the gala, his hand on her waist, captured from across the room. She hadn't planned to take the photo. Her camera had been with her, as always, and her photographer's instinct had acted before her heart could intervene. Now the evidence hung before her, dripping developer fluid back into the tray. 3 days had passed since the gala. 3 days of James's desperate explanations. "It's not what you think," he'd insisted. "Vanessa and I are just close colleagues." Olivia had listened, nodded, and said very little. Her silence unnerved James more than anger would have. He was a lawyer. He knew how to counter arguments. Her quiet contemplation gave him nothing to fight against. "You've barely said a word." James said that morning before leaving for work. Just tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking about light, she'd replied. How it reveals and conceals. He'd left frustrated, which suited Olivia fine. She needed space to plan her next steps. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Naomi. Everyone's talking about what happened. How are you holding up? Olivia ignored it. She'd also ignored the pitying glances at her favorite coffee shop and the sudden hush that fell when she entered her photography studio. Seattle's art and legal worlds overlapped enough that news traveled fast. Instead of dwelling on the humiliation, Olivia called her attorney. Not a divorce lawyer, not yet, but Serena Lynn, who specialized in business contracts. By evening, Olivia had negotiated a 6-month sabbatical from her regular clients, keeping only her passion projects. When James returned home, she was packing a suitcase. Where are you going? Panic edged his voice. I'm staying at the studio apartment above my workspace for a while, she said calmly. I've left the separation papers on your desk. Separation? Olivia, please, we can work through this. She zipped her suitcase closed. I don't want a scene, James. I want clarity. Is this about Vanessa? It was nothing. This is about us, Olivia interrupted, finally meeting his eyes. We've been fading for years. The difference is now everyone can see it. His face fell. What about counseling? Don't we owe ourselves that much? Maybe someday, she conceded. But first, I need to remember who I am without you. He reached for her, but she stepped back. The most painful part, she said softly, wasn't seeing you with her. It was realizing I've been taking pictures of everything beautiful in this world except my own life. She left him standing in their bedroom, surrounded by the framed botanical prints that had made her career, close-ups of resilient plants breaking through concrete, blooming in unlikely places. At her studio, Olivia set up a simple bed and spent the night developing more personal photographs, images she'd taken over the years but never shared. Plants reclaiming abandoned buildings, flowers growing from sidewalk cracks, nature's quiet rebellion against human constraints. By morning, a plan had formed. She called Marco Valentini, an old friend from art school who'd become a successful landscape architect. I need a collaborator, she told him. Someone who understands how beauty emerges from broken places. The Garden of New Beginnings. 3 months later, Olivia stood in her transformed gallery space, surrounded by large-scale photographs unlike anything she'd created before. The exhibition, titled Resurgence, featured stunning images of botanical resilience, plants breaking through concrete, vines reclaiming abandoned buildings, flowers blooming in harsh environments. What made the exhibition unique was Marco Valentini's contribution. The Italian landscape architect had designed living installations that complemented each photograph, small ecosystems that physically demonstrated the themes in Olivia's work. Visitors could experience both the image and its living counterpart. You've outdone yourself, Marco said, approaching with 2 glasses of sparkling water. At 35, he moved with the casual confidence of someone comfortable in his skin. His olive complexion and thoughtful brown eyes contrasted with Olivia's fair features. We did this together, she corrected him, accepting the drink. I wouldn't have had the courage without your push. Marco smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. You had the vision. I just helped with the execution. Their friendship had evolved during the project. Marco had been her first love during a college semester in Italy, before life and ambition pulled them in different directions. Reconnecting had been surprisingly easy. They spoke the same visual language and shared a deep appreciation for nature's persistence. Remember that abandoned greenhouse we found? Olivia asked, gesturing to the centerpiece photograph, a dilapidated glass structure with light streaming through broken panels, illuminating the wild garden that had taken over inside. How could I forget? You nearly fell through the floor to get that shot. It was worth it, she said, studying the image. It's strange. I spent years taking perfect, controlled photographs of plants for scientific journals. Now I'm celebrated for showing their wildness. The exhibition would open to the public tomorrow night. Already, several prestigious galleries had expressed interest in touring the show, and a publisher had approached her about a book. Have you heard from him? Marco asked carefully. Olivia nodded. The separation papers are signed. He's still with her, from what I hear. And how do you feel about that? She considered the question. Like watching a Polaroid develop. Each day, the picture becomes clearer, but it's no longer a picture of me. They walked through the gallery, making final adjustments to the lighting. In one corner, Marco had created a small reflecting pool surrounded by ferns and moss. Above it hung Olivia's photograph of a single water lily emerging from a stagnant pond. This is my favorite, Marco admitted. There's something about the way you captured the light on the water, hopeful but not sentimental. Olivia felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. Marco had always seen her work with unusual clarity. Tomorrow will change everything, she said. Are you nervous? Not about the exhibition, he replied, his gaze lingering on her face. That will be brilliant. The implication hung between them, delicate as a new leaf. Neither rushed to define it. As evening fell, they sat on the gallery's small balcony, sharing takeout noodles and watching the city lights come alive. Seattle spread before them, the same city where Olivia had felt invisible just months before. I keep thinking about how plants know, Olivia said suddenly. They know which way to grow toward light even in the darkest places. Marco's hand found hers on the railing. Some people have that instinct too. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let herself feel the simple pleasure of connection, something she'd forgotten in the polite distance of her marriage. To resurgence, Marco said, raising his water glass. To finding light, Olivia replied, touching her glass to his. Below them, a poster announced tomorrow's exhibition opening, featuring the image of that abandoned greenhouse, broken, beautiful, and impossibly alive, blooming through cracks. The exhibition opening exceeded all expectations. Seattle's art scene turned out in force, along with botanical researchers, environmental activists, and photography enthusiasts. Olivia moved through the crowd in a simple emerald dress, the same color she'd worn to the fateful gala, now reclaimed as her own. The juxtaposition of decay and renewal is extraordinary, said the curator from the Seattle Art Museum, studying a photograph of mushrooms flourishing on a fallen tree. Your earlier work was technically perfect, but this has soul. Olivia smiled, accepting the compliment with new confidence. Sometimes we need to break apart to find what matters. As she spoke, she noticed a familiar figure entering the gallery. James stood in the doorway, looking uncertain in his tailored suit. He'd lost weight, she noticed, and something else had changed. The confident swagger was gone. Their eyes met across the room. She gave him a small nod before turning back to her conversation. Later, as she explained one of Marco's installations to a group of students, James approached. He waited patiently until she finished. This is remarkable, Liv, he said, using her old nickname. You've created something powerful here. Thank you, she replied, keeping her voice level. I didn't expect to see you tonight. I had to come. Everyone's talking about it, he hesitated. Things with Vanessa? They didn't work out. Olivia felt an odd detachment, as if he were telling her about a stranger's relationship. I'm sorry to hear that. Can we talk? Maybe coffee sometime this week? Before she could answer, Marco appeared at her side with a glass of champagne. The Times critic just arrived, he said, then noticed James. Sorry to interrupt. It's fine, Olivia said. James, this is Marco Valentini, my collaborator. Marco, this is James Bennett. The two men exchanged tense handshakes. Your contribution to the exhibition is impressive, James said stiffly. The living elements bring another dimension to Olivia's work. Her vision made it possible, Marco replied. She sees connections others miss. The unspoken message hung between them. She sees clearly now. I should greet the critic, Olivia said. James, about coffee, I don't think that's a good idea right now. I'm still finding my footing. Disappointment flashed across James's face. I understand. But Liv, I miss you. When you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting. After he left, Marco touched her elbow gently. Are you okay? Better than I expected, she admitted. A few months ago, I would have dropped everything for another chance with him. And now? She looked around the gallery, at her photographs, at the living installations, at the people engaging with her vision. Now I realize I was always more than just his wife. Later that night, after the last guests departed, Olivia and Marco sat on the gallery floor, surrounded by empty champagne flutes and positive reviews. "I have news," Marco said, his Italian accent more pronounced with fatigue. "I've been offered a major project, a sustainable urban garden for the new Seattle Commons development." "Marco, that's wonderful." "It means I'll be staying in Seattle for at least a year." His eyes held a question. Olivia felt something unfurl inside her, like a tightly wound fern finding space to grow. She leaned forward and kissed him, tentatively at first, then with growing certainty. When they pulled apart, Marco touched her face gently. "I've wanted to do that since the day we found that abandoned greenhouse." "Why did you wait?" she whispered. "Because you needed to bloom on your own terms." His hands were warm against her skin. "I didn't want to be another man defining your life." That night, in her studio apartment above the gallery, their bodies relearned each other after years apart. Marco's hands traced her with reverence, discovering how she'd changed, celebrating who she'd become. As moonlight filtered through the skylight, Olivia felt herself fully present in her body for the first time in years, every sensation vivid, every touch electric. Their connection was neither a rebellion against her past, nor a desperate grasp for validation, but something entirely new. Two people choosing each other with clear eyes and open hearts. Capturing Light 1. Year later, Olivia stood on the observation deck of the Space Needle, adjusting her camera settings. Seattle sprawled below, bathed in rare winter sunshine. She had 10 minutes before the tourists arrived to capture the city's transformation in morning light. Her phone vibrated with a text from Marco. "Coffee's ready when you finish." The gallery called. "Tokyo wants the exhibition for fall." She smiled, typing back, "Be home in an hour." Let's celebrate. Home was now a converted warehouse overlooking Puget Sound, with a shared studio space where their work intertwined. Marco's drawing table stood near her dark room, and plants filled every corner, specimens they'd collected together from their travels documenting ecological resilience around the world. Her Resurgence exhibition had toured internationally, evolving with each location as Marco adapted the living installations to incorporate native plants. Their collaborative approach had earned them recognition in both the art and environmental communities. As Olivia photographed the city awakening, she reflected on how much had changed. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, surprisingly amicable once both she and James accepted that their paths had genuinely diverged. She'd run into him and Vanessa at a charity event last month. The awkwardness was minimal. They exchanged pleasantries and genuine good wishes. She felt neither resentment nor longing, just appreciation for the journey that had led her here. Back at the warehouse, Marco was sketching designs for their next project, a series of public installations documenting climate adaptation. "Successful hunt?" he asked as she entered, not looking up from his drawing. "The light was perfect." She kissed the top of his head before pouring herself coffee. "I'm thinking of calling the series Thresholds, moments of transition when everything changes." He set down his pencil and pulled her onto his lap. "Speaking of thresholds, Marco Valentini, are you trying to distract me from my artistic vision?" she teased, running her fingers through his dark hair. "Never," he said solemnly. "But I received a call this morning that might interest you. The Mediterranean Ecological Institute wants us to document coastal restoration in Greece, Italy, and Spain." Olivia's eyes widened. "For how long?" "6 months, starting in spring." He watched her face carefully. "We'd be developing a teaching program, too, showing others how to capture ecological narratives." She considered the opportunity. "My exhibition commitments could be coordinated." His hands traced lazy circles on her back. "We could be based in that little village near Rome where we first met." The suggestion held more than professional opportunity. They had been dancing around the future, content with their present happiness. "Are you asking me to move to Italy with you? I'm asking if you want to build a life together, here, there, wherever our work takes us." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I've been carrying this around for weeks. waiting for the right moment. Inside wasn't a traditional engagement ring, but a delicate silver band inlaid with a cross-section of petrified wood, revealing growth rings from centuries past. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Like all important things, it tells a story," Marco said. "Each ring represents years of growth, drought, abundance, all visible only when viewed together." Olivia slipped it onto her finger, the weight unfamiliar but right. "Yes," she said simply, "to all of it." Later that afternoon, they walked along the waterfront, making plans for their Mediterranean project. Passing a newsstand, Olivia noticed Seattle Business Monthly featuring James on the cover. He'd launched an environmental law foundation. "Look at that," she said, showing Marco. "He found his way too." "Does it bother you?" Marco asked. She shook her head. "Just the opposite. It feels like everyone ended up exactly where they needed to be." As they continued walking, Olivia raised her camera to capture the light playing across the water. Through her viewfinder, she saw a perfect moment. Marco silhouetted against the sparkling sound, a container ship passing in the distance, seagulls wheeling overhead, past, present, and future in a single frame. She took the photograph, knowing it might be the most important one she'd ever captured, not because it would hang in galleries or win awards, but because it documented the moment she fully understood that betrayal had not broken her, but redirected her toward a truer path. "What do you see?" Marco asked, noticing her pause. "Everything," Olivia replied, lowering her camera and taking his hand. "I see everything.